everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you all what I read in 2021, and I do have quite a big stack to get through with you guys. So I'm really excited to share with you all. Of course, in recent years, or not recent years, but this year I have been doing more Disney stuff on my channel, but this is a video that's really important to me and I've done it for 4 years now. And I think you guys enjoy them and I like looking back on the memories. So I hope that you enjoy this video, even though it's not quite Disney related. And next week's is gonna be a little bit different as well, but then I'll get back to the Disney flow of things. But I'm really excited to share these books with you all and chat through with them and recommend some for you guys. So I hope that you enjoy. If you're not already, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below for more Disney and Orlando videos, and also give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. So this year I read 16 books. I had a goal to read 12, so I did achieve it and I'm very, very excited. Well, 4 of them were short stories, but I feel like that still counts. And this year I did something a little bit different. This year I kept track after I finished a book and wrote some notes of how I was feeling after I finished it, so that way when I did this video I could actually recall like my thoughts and things like that, because going back a whole year to January and how I felt reading the book at that time is very difficult, and the past few years I feel like I haven't been able to give the full amount of detail that I wanted to. So I'm hoping that this video you guys will enjoy, because I'll be able to actually recall exactly how I was feeling when I read it. So anyway, let's just go ahead and dive in. So I'm gonna kind of go in order of how I read things. So the first book that I read was Triple Chocolate Cheesecake Murder by Joanne Fluke, and you guys know that I'm a big Joanne Fluke fan if you've seen any of my book videos in the past. So her Hannah Swensen series is a murder mystery series, and I love it so much because it's just relaxed, small town vibes. There's a romantic love triangle, and at the end of most chapters there's recipes for the things that Hannah makes in the actual stories. So the ice cream sundae that they make, you can make yourself, and we've actually tried a few recipes and they've all tasted delicious. My favorite, there was a chocolate lava cake one, and there was a cheesecake one that we made, which was so good. So we really enjoy them. Well, I really enjoy them. Blake enjoys the food, and they just make me feel so happy inside. So I got the newest one. I haven't finished her full series. I started with Cream Puff Murder and I kind of finished till the end, and then I went back to the beginning and started reading those. So I still have like 5 more to go, I think, but this is the newest one. So I got this one, and I have to say it was a little bit hard to read. I've said this in my previous few videos with her newer books, like the Christmas books and her book last year, but they're kind of starting to feel a little bit different from the original book series. I feel like it's the editing. I'm part of a Joanne Fluke Facebook group, and everybody kind of has different theories as to why the books feel so different. I personally feel like there's a different editor, or they're not putting money into editing or something, because there are some inconsistencies that just make absolutely no sense. So I wrote down some notes, so here's what I had to say about it. So I started out super excited to read this book and seemed to be on a higher level than the other recent books, which made me want to keep reading and not distracting me. What I meant by this is, in the previous books, there were things that would be so dumbed down. For example, Norman, can you wash the dishes? Oh yeah, just go ahead and rinse them, dry them, and put them on the shelves. Like a lot of like over explaining that didn't need to happen. So that wasn't a thing in this book, which was nice. However, there were several inconsistencies which were super confusing. One example was Andrea asked Hannah if the cats would be in the penthouse, and Hannah mentioned that Norman would be bringing them in the cat carrier. Norman shows up with no cats, and they aren't mentioned again until Hannah and Norman go home, where they are waiting for them. Later on in the book, Hannah had everyone try her chocolate hazelnut biscotti cookies with coffee, and they all enjoy them. But then 2 pages later, Mike asks if there's more pie, and she says no, but try my new chocolate hazelnut biscotti cookies. They're great with coffee. So yeah, that was a little bit disappointing, and I don't know how those mistakes were not caught. That hasn't been an issue with other books in the Hannah Swensen series, and I love these books so much, so it's kind of disappointing, because like I love Joanne Fluke and I love like the stories, so hopefully it'll get better. I'm still gonna read them, I'm still gonna buy the 2 books, but it definitely is like hard to read. So I'm hoping, you know, this is the thing, it's hard to be critical when an author has put so much time into books. But the thing is I know that she's capable of making such great books, because I've read them all in the past. So I'm hoping that these reviews will kind of like pave the way for better editing, and like that these reviews will kind of of be taken to heart. So that's my goal. It's not to tear anybody down or discredit anybody's work, but I just know what this author is capable of and what this series is capable of, and I hope that it gets better. So anyway, I still liked the book. It was just a little bit hard to read, but I love Hannah Swensen and I love all the characters, so I will continue reading. And a little spoiler, but this book, oh, sorry, I damaged my knee, so I'm a little bit uncomfortable. This book had not really any romantic inkling at all, so I'm hoping that the next book does. And a little spoiler alert, but Hannah just moved in with Norman, which is one of the gentlemen in her love triangle, so I'm interested to see how that affects their relationship. So anyway, my Joanne Fluke book of the year. I'll probably read more this year. I want to finish the series this year, but I'm currently working on another series, which I'll talk about in a second. So anyway, okay, the next books that I read were Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I think I've literally mentioned these in almost every book I've read video because I've read them multiple times, and the reason why I reread them this year was because this book, The Desolations of Devil's Acre, came out, and this is the last book in the series for now. He says that there may be another one in like 10 years time, like a long time down the road when the characters are older and grown, and I'd be very interested to see that. But for now, this is the last book in the series, and if you've read series 4, you know that many last book of the series, they call back nods to the original characters, to characters we may have briefly met in earlier books, and so I really wanted to reread these books before I read the new Desolations of Devil's Acre. It was good to reread them. I have read them many times now. Like the first 3 books I've probably read 3 or 4 times each, and then these books have now been my second or third read on top, because in previous years I also reread the original books to read the new ones because I wanted to like refresh my brain and remember these characters, remember everything that was happening. And I can honestly say that every time I went through, I noticed a new detail and noticed something new, which I really like about a series. However, this time I was reading them, I feel like I really realized that I'm an adult now, and certain things in the book I just didn't agree with, and I think it's because these are like young adult, they're more like teenage to young adult, and I don't know, I feel like I'm just getting older. There were certain things that like I actually sided with other characters instead of the main characters on, which definitely did not happen when I first read these books years and years ago. So I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older and I look at things differently now, but I still enjoyed the books as always. They're magical, they're so fun. Oh, I should probably describe what they are, but these books are a book series about a little boy. Well, he's not a little boy, he's like 16 years old. A boy who finds out that his grandfather has all these crazy stories about kids who have like special powers, and he kind of discounts them and thinks that because he was running away in World War II, that these were just kind of stories he created in his head to cope with what was happening around him, and that Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children was just a made-up place for people, or a place that kids were displaced in World War II. But in reality, he does find these children and they do have special powers, and this book is told through actual vintage photographs. So it's like a picture book for adults, which I absolutely love. I love looking at all of the pictures. Some of them give me like chills and weird feelings. So I just think it's really fun, and I really enjoy looking at the pictures, and he kind of describes the characters through the pictures. So yeah, basically the books are like this huge quest to get rid of like the evil peculiars, and there's a lot that happens in them. So I definitely recommend. I love these books. It just had like kind of a different tone to me now as an adult. If I'm being honest, I was most looking forward to this one, the last book, and I was pretty disappointed. This is gonna sound so sadistic of me, but I wanted, okay, this is a huge spoiler alert, so if you don't want to hear, please fast forward a little bit if you haven't read this book yet. I really wanted more characters to like die, as weird as that sounds. Like I wanted to have that like moment of like mourning and that moment of like sadness where I just like wanted to finish and like throw my book against the wall because I was so sad that a character was gone, and none of that really happened, and there were not really any nods to the original books, and it just felt so different. There was no romance, which I love the romance, as you guys know, and so it was just a very different feel. I don't know, I love the book series. I will recommend it to everybody because it's really, really beautiful how he does it, but it definitely had a different feel to it, so that's just how I feel about that. In this series, there's 6 books, I think? Yeah, 6 books. So I read Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, Hollow City, Library of Souls, Map of Days, and Conference of the Birds, and Desolations of Devil's Acre. So I did write a couple notes. Conference of the Birds felt a bit older reading these again for the the first time in a few years. I noticed the kids doing things that annoyed me or I didn't agree with, but still held the sense of adventure and family that I've loved in this series for years. And the Desolations of Devil's Acre kept me on the edge of my seat. So many unexpected twists and turns. Didn't feel the emotional connection like I did with Harry Potter. Loved the ending, but wanted more relationship. Definitely looking for a more adult read after this series. Author says it's the end of the series for now, but would love to see a future with adult Jacob and Noor and not quite so much action. That's what I said, as I would love to see a future with adult Jacob and Noor, just like kind of with all their peculiarness and not really having to fight so much, but just like using their peculiarities, which is what the first book was about, which I really loved. So like I said, after I read this like more teenage young adult series, I wanted something a little spicier, a little bit adult. So I turned to a book which I had on my shelf called Murder at the Brightwell. So let me actually pull up a picture of this because I lent it to my stepmom and I forgot to get it back. So I don't have the actual book. I found this book at Goodwill, which is how I've been introduced to a lot of books. I also found the Joanne Fluke series at Goodwill. So this is what Murder at the Brightwell looks like. So Murder at the Brightwell, it's by Ashley Weaver and it's part of the Amory Ames mysteries, which are my new obsession. I'm so excited to share with you guys. So these books are also murder mysteries with a little bit more of an adult twist than Joanne Fluke's books. Actually, I'd say they're kind of like on the same level, but the Amory Ames mysteries take place in the 30s and the writing style of the author is as if you are reading a book from the 30s, which I love because probably my favorite book of all time now is Rebecca, and that was written in the 30s, and I love like the language and like the wording that they use and like how things were, like having tea and having like all these little sandwiches and going back to our sitting room and like all of that stuff, which I don't know if that makes me like super posh, but I really enjoy it. And Murder at the Brightwell was such a great story. I read it so quickly. I was on the edge of my seat. So if you're looking for a new murder mystery series or like a book from the 30s, it's not from the 30s, it's written now, but a book that takes place in the 30s, this is one I highly recommend. So here's what I wrote in my notes for this one. I put, after reading the Peregrine Peculiar Children series, I needed some romance in my life and picked this up. I was so thankful I had somehow come across this first book in the series at Goodwill. Yeah, I can't believe I found the first book in the series at Goodwill. That was quite a stroke of luck. I love the setting in 1930s England and how the writing style is very similar to books at this time, like Rebecca, which is one of my favorites. All the language is similar to the era. The mystery kept me on the edge of my seat, had no clue who the murderer was, and the romance kept me very invested into the story. Loved it and immediately bought the next book in the series, which was dun 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 dun, Death Wears a Mask. So this was the next book in the Amory Ames mystery series, and I honestly enjoyed all of them. So I put, very impressed with how different the overall story is. Rather than murder mystery series that repeat the same story over and over again, this one was like a completely different story from Murder at the Brightwell, which was really nice. It was in a completely different setting, completely different circumstances going on, completely different characters, which was really fun. Amory is everything I want to be in life: strong-willed, respectable, intelligent, kind, and stubborn when needed. I only disagree with her about the use of furs, but I guess it was with the time. This book kept me on the edge of my seat and threw so many twists and turns that the reader thoroughly enjoyed, was my comments. So I really enjoyed Death Wears a Mask. This one took place at a masquerade ball, so that was cool. The first one took place at a hotel. This one took place at a masquerade ball, so it's kind of cool to like have these different settings and for a mystery to take place. So then I read the next book in the series called A Most Novel Revenge, which I think this one was my favorite one. Oh no, I think the last one was my favorite one. Death Wears a Mask. So A Most Novel Revenge. I expected this one to be my favorite because of the setting. So the setting for this one was in a mansion like in the countryside, but it took me a bit longer to read than the other two. I was thoroughly surprised by the murder and really enjoyed the story within a story. So I really enjoyed it and it was really good. It just took me a little bit longer to read. And then the last Amory Ames book I read last year was a short story. It's called Intrigue and Capri, and it was just a little quick story. I think it was like, yeah, it's 63 pages, so it was really short. So a very short story with not so solid storyline, but a fun read nevertheless, was all that I had to critique. So yes, I read 4 of the Amory Ames books. I love them so much. I have 4 more to read, so I'll probably finish them this year in 2022. I'm reading one right now and they're so good. I have so many positive things to say about this series. I love Amory. I love her relationship. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give anything away from the first book, book, but it's a really great series if you're looking for something good to read, and I just admire Amory so much, and she can be a little bit naive at some points, which I think just kind of goes to show like who she is and who she becomes throughout the series, and I just love it. It makes me laugh and it makes me happy, so I really enjoy those books. Then it was Halloween. So I like to get into theme at Halloween and Christmas time. So I read Mother Knows Best this year, which is a Disney book, and I got this book on sale for the Black Friday sale at Barnes & Noble, where they give away the signed copies. Well, not on sale, but I got the signed copy at Barnes & Noble a few Black Fridays ago, and I really enjoyed this book. I don't know, it's hard for me to say like if I accept it as part of Rapunzel's story or if I don't. So basically this story like takes place, it's supposed to be the origin stories of Mother Gothel, who is the villain in Tangled, which is my favorite Disney movie. And so for me, it's like hard for me to accept that this is the actual story that took place, because it does tie into the movie as well. Like you have Mother Gothel's backstory, and then you have actual like scenes from the movie and describing what's actually happening here. So I don't know if I'll accept it as actually part of the story or if I'll accept how I originally felt about the movie, but I really, really love this story. It had so much detail and so much like so many like I already said details, but like so many new things that I never thought about before. The only thing with this series, this is a series, there's a bunch of other books like with different villains and their origin stories. I didn't realize that they were all tied together. I thought you could just pick up any one in the series, so that's why I read this one. I think this is like the third or fourth or something like that, but there were characters from other books that I had no idea who they were. So if you are interested in reading these, I would say start from the beginning, which I do have the first one in my library, so I might read that one for Halloween this year. The first one is The Evil Queen from Snow White, so we'll see. I haven't decided yet, but it was really cute, really easy read. Like the text is really big, wasn't a very long book. I think it's more of like a teenage kind of like level, but it was really good. So here's my notes. I was expecting the series to be one where you could read any of them out of order because they're all separate stories, but they are all connected somehow, so I probably should have started from the beginning. Either way, I could still follow along pretty easily with what was happening with new characters. I love the story of Gothel before Rapunzel, but as far as the actual movie goes, I don't think it flowed as well as it could have. It was a very easy read, written in a very easy language, and also a great Halloween book, but this book also does not align with Tangled the series. Oh yeah, that's something else that I wanted to say, is if you enjoyed Tangled the series, this book, I think it was written before Tangled the series came out, so it doesn't align with the series. It does align with the book, so that's something else that I thought was interesting. Okay, so the next book, Tropical Itch Bermuda by Alfred Schropp. So this year I had two friends pass away unexpectedly. One of them was Chef Fred, who wrote this book. I really wanted to read it. Everybody that knew him pretty much read it when it came out. I think it came out this year or last year. So 2021. So it came out this year. So I really wanted to read it. This is gonna be really hard to talk about, but we weren't even super close. I worked with him for almost 2 years, but he was an amazing man, and I have a lot to say, so I'll just kind of talk about the book first. So this book follows his journey from his hometown in Austria to Bermuda and his first job as like a chef at the I forget what the resort is called. It's a true story. It's all about his experience like with paperwork and the adventure of getting there and the amazing time he had in Bermuda, all the people that he met, all the food that he ate, and it has his actual recipes in here as well. So I'm definitely gonna try some of his recipes that he made, and it's just a really great story. Even if you don't know Chef Fred, I really enjoyed reading it. He obviously is from Austria, so the grammar is a little bit harder to understand at some points, which is totally fine because that's how he talked in real life, so it's kind of nice to hear him talk again. So if that's something that's gonna bother you, just know that. But I highly recommend this book. It's so good. It's full of adventure and it's just beautiful, and he was such a family man, and he kept saying he was gonna retire and kept saying he was gonna retire, and he never got a chance to, unfortunately, but he wanted to take care of his daughters so much. So I really, if you would go buy this, I would really appreciate it. I know his family would appreciate it, and I know he would appreciate it because I'm sure that the money is going towards his daughters. So that's really nice. But I wrote a little bit at the beginning. So I'm gonna read to you guys what I wrote in memory of Chef Fred. So I met Chef Fred in 2019 when we moved to Atlanta from Miami. We were completely broke. I had figured out the job that we moved there for was a scam, and I was desperate for a job. I called up Seasons 52, and Chef Fred was the one who answered the phone and got me my interview. I worked with him for almost 2 years, and he was one of the most hardworking, family-oriented men I had ever met. He was always talking about retiring one day, but wanted to take care of his daughters and get them through college first. I'm sad he never finally got to retire. I was there the day he passed out at work. 2 other cooks were carrying him up and brought him to where I was sitting in the back room. He insisted he was fine and didn't need to go to a hospital, which will tell you how hardworking he was. He told us he was having horrible headaches when he woke up every day, and we finally convinced him to go to the doctor. Later that day, we got a phone call that after a CAT scan, they found out he had a brain tumor, which after surgery revealed was brain cancer. I remember seeing him several weeks later with what we all joked was a Frankenstein scar, stitches going from ear to ear across the top of his head. Sadly, I didn't know at the time that this would be the last day I would ever see him, as he passed away a few months ago as I'm writing this. I will always think of him when I have a soda, water, and lemonade, just the right amount of lemonade he told me, which he named Fred Schrocker after himself. I'll never forget the Austrian cookies he made, which were super fluffy with very little butter, or in his insanely delicious slutty brownies, which he had promised to make me for my birthday this year. I'll remember how he put the meat to the sides that I could eat with everyone else. And mostly I'll remember how much kindness he showed me, how much he loved his daughters, and how passionate he was about food. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. And it's just sad. It was a really tough year for me. I lost 2 friends, both in tragic ways. I'll never forget the day that Chef Fred fainted at work. And I hope that this book can help his daughters, because I know that's probably all that he wanted, was just for his daughters to be taken care of. So I highly recommend it. It's a great story. Love you, Chef Fred. So yeah. Okay, getting into the last books of the year. So I started Christmas books back in like the end of November. And this series is called the Westward Christmas Brides Collection. And I got streaks on my face. Sorry about that. 9 historical romances answered the call of the American West. And if that doesn't tell you that I picked up this book when I was a conservative Christian, I don't think anything else will. But I did. I bought this book years and years and years ago. It was on sale, and I've had it in my little like Christmas boxes for a few years now. And I decided to pick it up this year and finally give it a try. And I kind of told myself, you know, if it is like too like churchy or if it's like too cheesy, I'm not gonna read it. And I actually really enjoyed the stories. So I read the first, I think 3 books. I read A Christmas Prayer, Another Christmas Story. Oh, I read the first 4 books. A Christmas Prayer, Another Christmas Story, The Reluctant Runaway, and A Stagecoach Christmas. I really liked all of them. So this series takes place, it's not a series, it's all separate books written by separate authors, and it just all follows the theme of the Oregon Trail and people moving to the West. And I have to be honest, for some reason, I had no idea that the Oregon Trail took place during like the Victorian time period. For some reason in my head, it always took place like in the 1500s, which makes no sense because America like wasn't even a thing then. And I always thought it took place under Thomas Jefferson. I don't know why these things like happened in my mind. I really don't know. It taught me a lot, the series or these books. They're all very short stories. They're like 50 pages each. Like this is what I read. It was 4 books, and then I think I have 5 books left, so I'll probably read that next Christmas. But they were all really good. They all had completely different stories, which I really enjoyed. So let me tell you a little bit about them. So A Christmas Prayer. This book was super cheesy Christian and had some pretty old ideas about Native Americans. I did enjoy the story though, and certain twists gave me chills, and I always love stories about adventure, hard work, and fending for oneself for some reason. So I don't know why the author chose to, here's the thing. She has some like little notes about Native Americans from what the travelers saw them as, and then later on they fixed how they perceived them because they interacted with them. I don't think it was necessary to say it in the way that she did. In other books, they encounter Native Americans along the trail, and there's never any like racism or particular words that she used, which I don't think was okay. So this one is a book that I'd probably skip for that reason in particular, but the other books did not have that, which is very nice. So I don't think that was really necessary. I'm hoping if they do like amend these books one day, they'll remove that from the story. So I don't really know how I feel about that. Another Christmas Story. This one was very sweet with a strong female lead, which I admired. Made me think more about situations women were put in at this time because they didn't have rights. So this one was really good. I really enjoyed this story. Reluctant Runaway, by far my favorite of the books so far. I could not put it down. I wanted to read so much much to find out what was going to happen. First one that truly felt like Christmas. No racism, but the author did have some confusing moments of trying to understand what she was saying. So Reluctant Runaway was my personal favorite. It was about a girl who runs away from her hometown. I forget where it was, like Iowa or something, and she goes to Colorado, and she by herself and alone, and she kind of has to like pay like forage for herself, and this one guy like tries to help her, and she's not really interested in helping, and she's very secretive, and you kind of uncover like more clues as the story goes on and about why she ran away and what's actually happening. And it was a really good story, and I loved like the Christmas theming of it. The other books just kind of had like little like spurts of Christmas. It wasn't like entirely Christmas, so that one I definitely enjoyed the most. And then A Stagecoach Christmas I just finished like a few days ago, but that one was really cute as well. It was about like a stagecoach that kind of crashed on the way to the West, and them having to camp out at somebody's house, and there's a lot of like twists and turns with that one as well. So they're definitely interesting if you're interested in something like that. I liked them for the Christmassy feel, and I probably will continue reading them next year. Anyway guys, I have talked for way too long, so I hope that you enjoyed this video and enjoyed my reads for this year. As always, please leave me your recommendations in the comments down below. I promise I look at them. I just have so many books in my collection right now, but I definitely want to read them all one day. And I thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope that you guys have a happy reading year in 2022, and I guess I will talk to you all soon. Bye guys!